Hi, I'm Christopher Warnock of Renaissance Astrology, and today I want to talk about our new 16th mansion talismans, as well as mansions of the moon and mansion talismans in general. So I'm really happy to have these talismans again. We have been out of stock with them for almost 2 years. So, it's easy to look at Renaissance Astrology, have like over 100 talismans available and think like, oh wow, I can totally have the choice and I can just wait around. The reality is every single one of our talismans is a limited edition. Every single one of our talismans sells out, and then as they sell out, the price increases, and then boom, you can't even get them at any price. So definitely, take, as you said, as you're looking at talismans for Renaissance Astrology, recognize that, and recognize, if you're looking at something you really like, you want to scoop it up because it's just not going to be around much longer. So let's talk a little bit about the mansions of the moon. I think I'm right off the bat, people get confused between the mansions of the moon and the moon phases. Okay, these are different relationships. Okay, so the moon phases are the waxing and waning of the moon. I mean, you can look at the moon, you can see it. It's a full moon versus there's a new moon, you can't see it at all. This shows the relationship of the moon and the sun as seen from Earth. Okay, and so that's an approximately 28-day cycle, the lunar cycle. And the mansions are something different. The mansions are like a lunar zodiac. Okay, the mansions show the path of the moon against the fixed stars, basically. And so it takes about 27.5 days for the moon to orbit the Earth, to pass through the entire circle of the zodiac, and therefore in Western astrology, which comes from Arabic astrology, we use 28 mansions. Interestingly enough, there's 28 letters of the Arabic alphabet, and so this has always been held to be highly significant. And there's various ways of linking up the letters with the mansions, but each mansion, like I said, corresponds to an Arabic letter, and therefore it's very widely used in Arabic magic. The mansions, like I said, are somewhat mysterious to people. Just like the moon. I mean, the moon is the light of the night. The light, just went out last night, a gorgeous moon, and it was illuminating the clouds. Just absolutely beautiful. But there's always this quality of mystery. There's always this quality of hiddenness about the moon. And I think that's one of the things about, first of all, just understanding the mansions, and then kind of getting a grasp of what they represent and what powers are involved with them, and the angels of the mansions, I think, is something that it takes a lot of study and experience, and just kind of being open to the intuition and the qualities of the moon in terms of her mysteriousness. So it's interesting because, as I said, the 28 mansions are really, in a sense, a lunar zodiac. And really what that means is that if we want to dig deeper into it, I mean, obviously you can think of it in terms of like, okay, what can I get? So what is each mansion for, and what does it give to me? So that's perfectly legitimate. But that is not the only use of the mansions. If you look at them, you can see a complete representation of all the different permutations of reality. And again, it's a bit like the I Ching, 64 hexagrams, or all the different possible patternings, all the different possible, there's a book of changes, all the different possible changes. The mansions of the moon are very similar. So, because people will look at them and they'll say, well, this mansion, that doesn't sound very good. That sounds like a bad mansion. Why would you want to make that talisman? It's like, because the talismans were not, the mansions were not made for us to make talismans. Okay, we are kind of clicking into the underlying fact that they are a representation of reality. So we have all possible permutations of reality, both positive and negative, both gain and for loss. Are found within the mansions, and the moon cycle through the mansions every month replicates this complete creation and growth and death of all things in the sublunary realm. So really what we're able to do with the mansions is tap into this underlying power, underlying reality, and the spiritual cycles that really undergird the material reality that we think that we're interacting with. So, since I take a devotional approach, my approach is less focused on immediately getting some particular material effect out of the mansion, again, which is fine, but instead of building up a relationship. And so that's really what my focus is on, the mansions. And yet, at the same time, once I build up the relationship, I've been able to get some pretty amazing effects. So let's just talk a little bit about the 16th mansion. And the Picatrix, which is, of course, our main source for mansions, says the 16th mansion is for making of money, which is to say selling and earning. It says, when the moon has passed around to this mansion, fashion the figure of a man seated on a throne carrying a scale in his hands. And of course, the scales for weighing out money. And so let me just show you our bronze. You can see the design here with the man with the scale. It's really gorgeous, fabulous talisman. And then this is the image that goes with the talismans. This is an incredibly gorgeous 16th mansion image by Nigel Jackson. And really, it's interesting with Nigel because in terms of making mansions, images in general for astrological magic, he always expressed it really as that not he wasn't the source, but that the world soul, the anima mundi, was expressing itself, the alam amathal was expressing itself through him. And I think you can see that in this just absolutely incredible image, which is fabulous for contemplation, for the consecration, and also really to opening up a portal to get into connection with the angel of this particular mansion. And certainly this is an angel that I'd like to be in contact with. Certainly very useful to enhance your cash flow. I would like to have a better ability to make money. Sounds good to me. I think in particular, if you've got an internet business, this would be a really good choice for you. I do a lot of work with both the 3rd and 7th mansions, which are for all good things. And so the practice that I take is to go ahead and when the moon comes back into that mansion to do a reconsecration every month. And so I've been doing this for years. And so I have an incredibly strong relationship with the angels of these mansions. And it's really not unusual to see, and typical to see a bump in my business when the moon is around the 3rd mansion or the 7th mansion. And it's also not unusual for this to be the biggest day of the month in terms of business and sales. So definitely, as somebody who's running a business that's very sensitive to ups and downs, it's very sensitive to business flow, that definitely depends on marketing. I found it very useful to enhance, the business magically with mansion talismans. Another thing I would say about this, the 16th mansion, is this would be a good choice for somebody who's got an afflicted Mercury but wants to work on sort of mercurial powers of like with business, with marketing, investment, sales, things like that. I mean, I think that slots in. It covers a very similar area, and it would be very useful if you had, if you have a problem with Mercury. Like I said, there's no way to predict what the effects of a talisman are going to be, if any, for a particular person, but I can certainly personally attest to the power of the mansions, like the ones I worked with, the 3rd and 7th. You can see links to those as well, to enhancing my business. And I certainly have, been happy with the work I've done with the 16th mansion as well, and the feedback that I've gotten from people. So, and sometimes people ask me, it's like, what are the Contra Indications for mansion talismans? What I tend to look for, and again, this is not from any traditional source, there's lots of ways to do this, but my particular approach is to look at the moon in your natal chart. If the moon is in detriment, in other words, in Capricorn or fall in Scorpio, then to me that's like, okay, that's sort of a caution, a yellow flag. And then what I do is I'll do a specific divination for that particular mansion. So I'll say, okay, let's do it like an I Ching is what I typically use, just to see what it says. And again, if I'm getting a negative result back from that, plus you've got afflicted moon, I'm like, this is probably not the best talisman for you. So again, if you're serious about getting a Renaissance Astrology talisman, you can always email me. The contact information is a link there, and I can check your birth date and make recommendations of talismans, which I'm happy to do, as long as you're, as I said, serious about getting a Renaissance Astrology talisman. So very excited to have these talismans again. Again, they've been out of stock for over 2 years. Fabulous to have them. Recognize that every talisman that we have is rapidly selling out, basically. We've just been lucky that we're able to keep the process going and have such an amazing selection of talismans with really premier elections, which is what we really focus on. But I think I also, if you're interested in the mansions, I have a book on the mansions of the moon. I have a mansions of the moon mini course, and of course, if you really want to dive in, you can take my Astrological Magic Course, which goes into great detail and explains the full process of full chart mansion talismans. So lots of ways to go. You can get a talisman, you can study, get a book, take courses. But I definitely highly recommend that people dive in and work with the mansions. This is an incredibly powerful cycle that you can deal with. It's a portal to these powers that underlie our reality. And the celestial angels of the mansions are very powerful. And I've definitely benefited from my relationship with them. So again, lots of ways to go, lots of ways to access this, lots of things you can do with it. And I'm, again, very excited to be able to offer the 16th Mansion Talismans and then just be a resource for people working with the mansions in general.